Around 2004 to 2005, when I was 13, my father took me to the rural area near the small town of Uvalde, Texas, for a wild hog hunting trip. It was both a chance for him to network for work and a bonding opportunity for the two of us. After a long, exhausting 7-hour drive, we arrived at a small, dusty cabin that seemed to have been invaded by wild animals. That first night, I had trouble sleeping and couldn't shake the eerie feeling of being watched. The next morning, we went out to search for hog tracks and found a patch of forest where the soil had been clearly torn up, a sign of hog activity. While tracking the signs, my father suddenly stopped. Someone was standing about 50 meters ahead. The figure wore a thick red ski jacket, completely out of place in the sweltering 40-degree Celsius Texas heat. My dad called out several times, but the figure didn't move. It stood still, facing away from us. As my father cautiously approached, he stopped and said it was just a mannequin. I walked closer and noticed the clothes it wore were brand new. No dust, dirt, or signs of weather exposure. Both of us instantly felt something was deeply wrong. That same feeling of being watched returned, stronger than before. Without hesitation, my dad grabbed my hand, drew his gun, and led us away. Once home, he called the landowner, who confirmed that no one had leased the property and that it was fully fenced. A week later, the owner checked the area and found no mannequin or trace of anything unusual. To this day, the memory still sends chills down my spine. In the mountains of central Idaho, collecting firewood from national forests is a common task if you want to stay warm through winter. My family did this regularly. My father would fell trees, and my brothers and I would roll and load the wood into the truck. One day, my dad suggested we try a new logging road on the far side of the valley. The road was covered in rocks and fallen branches, making it a slow and exhausting trip. As we moved deeper into the forest, I started to feel like something wasn't right, like the mountain didn't want us there. I wasn't alone. My younger brother suddenly said, "Does anyone else feel like we're being watched?" Despite the unease, we kept going and finally found a small clearing to start cutting wood. Just as dusk settled in, my dad suddenly told us to pack up and leave. Unusual, since the truck wasn't full. On the way down the winding road, a brown blur suddenly darted in front of the truck. My dad braked hard. It was a dead deer, but not freshly killed. The body was covered in maggots, its eyes hollow, its stomach ripped open. It had clearly been dead for days. My dad instantly realized the deer had been thrown in front of us to make us stop. As he gave the order to get back in the truck, a blood-curdling scream echoed from the woods. He floored the gas, and we sped downhill, running right over the carcass. Later, he told us that all day he had felt like something was watching us. He had seen figures moving between the trees. He believes we were walking into a trap. Since that day, we've never returned to that forest. 2 years ago, my boyfriend, now my husband, took me on my very first backpacking trip in the Grand Tetons, a region known for grizzly bear activity. As someone who loved nature but had no wilderness experience, I was nervous, especially with bear warning signs everywhere. Hannah came fully prepared, carrying large knives, bear spray, even a hatchet. As we climbed the first steep hill, the forest around us suddenly fell eerily silent, which usually signals a predator nearby. When I reached the top, I froze. Sitting just 3 meters ahead in the trail was a massive grizzly bear. I silently waved my arm behind me to warn Hannah. Before we could react further, a loud crack echoed from the woods, causing the bear to flee. But just minutes later, when we looked back, we saw something towering above, a massive figure even larger than the grizzly. It stood upright like a bear, but its shape was off, almost humanoid. Terrified, we ran, never daring to look back. That night, after setting up camp in a small clearing, a young grizzly approached us again. Hannah shouted and raised the bear spray, scaring it off. But that wasn't the scariest part. The next night, while lying in our tent, we heard footsteps, something dragging along the tent fabric. Then, a human face pressed against the tent wall. Hannah immediately drew his gun and cocked it. The creature fled. In the morning, we found muddy footprints circling the tent, smudged handprints, and a strong stench of urine. That was the moment I realized the scariest thing in the forest isn't the wildlife. These forest tales don't just send chills down your spine, they awaken something deeper, a whisper of something unseen, lurking just beyond the veil that separates our world from something else. Danger in the woods doesn't always wear claws and fangs. Sometimes what's watching you from the shadows looks human, or worse, almost human. From the mannequin placed with eerie purpose in the Texas heat, to the towering figure silently stalking behind a grizzly in Wyoming, and the decaying deer thrown like bait in the mountains of Idaho, they all share one unsettling thread, an invisible hand shaping each encounter. There are places in the woods where day or night makes no difference. The air feels wrong, like you've stepped into a world that isn't yours. Those who've been there often return with the same haunted look, like they saw something they were never meant to see. Though the storytellers were lucky enough to escape, one question still lingers. What truly lives in the deep woods? And if you go back, will it let you leave again?